part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
That sound means it's time for Cavs of the Break NBA podcast from the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me, he is an NBA writer for hoopswire.com, the assistant managing editor at Outkick.com. He's our Cavs insider, national NBA writer, Sam Amico. Sam, it is nice to talk to you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. As I said before we started the podcast, John and I last time went to Whitey's and did it live from Whitey's, and you weren't invited. I had nothing to do with that, by the way. And got a nice, great burger there and had some good conversation, and we really missed you. And I even paid for half the meal. Well, a little less than half, but close.
Yeah. Well, if you're in that area, check out Whitey's. Just super cool. They're the best. Shouts to them for hosting us in our last episode. Sam, I haven't recorded a pod in 4 weeks. And so I'm a little giddy and I'm so excited. I invited a friend to join us. Very special guest today. He's our Strategic Ops Intern here at P3. He's a huge Cavs fan. He just recently had a birthday. Reece Wetzel, happy birthday, buddy.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, man.
Reece is in Oklahoma. This is his very first podcast. So Reece, man, let's talk Cavs.
Hey, if there's one thing I can do is talk Cavs.
Hey, the Cavs are back. I don't know if you guys have noticed, the Cavs are back. The Cavs are good. And this is kind of where we're at, Sam. The Warriors are on pace to win 74 games. The Cavs are on pace to make the playoffs. Nature is healing. Omicron notwithstanding. Sam, is the world ready for a good Cavs team again? Like, ready or not, they're here.
Right. Well, are you suggesting that it's going to be another Cavs Warriors finals?
I'm not going to go
you
that
never know.
far.
Yeah, the Warriors might not make it. You're right.
Yeah, there you go.
But I'll tell you this: it's been tons of fun with the Cavs. They've kind of so far, gotten through that injury bug that really bit them. Mm-hmm. Colin Sexton notwithstanding, but they were missing Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. Who else am I missing? Lauri Markkanen, Kevin Love. Yeah. So they withstood that. Obviously, they had that 5-game losing streak, but I think everybody was impressed with the way they were playing. And if you look at it, during that 5-game losing streak, 2 of the losses came against the Nets. One came against the Suns. The other came against the Warriors. Right there's the 3 best teams in the NBA.
And they were competitive games.
The Cavs
most of them
gave
within
them a
5
fight.
points. Yep.
Right, exactly. Most were within 5 points. And it's been a lot of fun to see just this team's growth.
Reece, just as a super fan, man, what's it been like to have the Cavs at the bottom of the gutter and then, hey, we're playing playoff basketball? Like, what has been your experience?
Man, going into the season, I you could not have told me that we would be this kind of a caliber team. I didn't think that this team had the opportunity to gel even at all, really. We got Jared Allen pretty late in the season last season. So to get him in and then to just see them play so well together. And the best part about it is we're not just relying on one guy. They're playing as a team out there. And I think that that's what's the best to see this year, is to see them play as a team, because I felt, when your team's in the gutter, you can see that, you have players visibly upset, and it's nice to not have those headlines anymore. It's nice for people to actually be paying attention to the Cavs again on their schedule.
The Cavs are on a 2-game win streak. They're currently sitting at 11-10, 1 game over 500. In the 7th place or 8th place in the East, there's a bunch of teams within like 2 games of each other there in the East. But Mobley is healthy and has played the last 2 games. By the way, I don't think it's a coincidence, Sam, that when Mobley plays, the Cavs win. We talked about that pretty much this entire season so far. And we just beat a playoff team from last year on the road by 30 We beat them so bad that from the desk of Kobe Altman, he cleared his bench in the fourth quarter. And it's nice to be on the other end of that bench clearing rather than on the receiving end of that. Sam, let's start here because this is where most of what I want to talk about centers around because it's so important. Do the Cavs live and die by Evan Mobley?
I don't want to say they live and die by him, but he's obviously, I mean, let's face it, he's been a basketball godsend for this franchise. He really has. I think the other night against Dallas, he doesn't, there's nights where he doesn't put up huge numbers. He's going to get close to a double-double every night, but it just, his presence makes such a huge difference because, okay, first of all, obviously he's a 7-footer, but he's very smooth. He keeps the ball moving. He is fantastic already, one of the NBA's best already at defending the rim. He's strong on the perimeter in terms of both ends of the floor. And he's so unassuming. He doesn't force anything. He lets the game come to him.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard JB Bickerstaff kind of allude to this. He looks like a seasoned guy, not a 19, 20-year-old kid who played 1 year of college ball. He's very fundamentally sound. He's athletic. He's got size, and he's not. There's not a hint of arrogance to the guy. He is all about the team and all about winning. And so, yes, it is huge when he's not in the lineup. Now, granted, Darius Garland has been fantastic, really, because of Mobley and because of the way Jared Allen is playing. Garland really doesn't get enough credit, but the bottom line is you take him out of that lineup and things could kind of turn to mush, Ricky Rubio or not. So, Mobley is obviously kind of like which is funny to say about a rookie, is the calming presence who can do it all, but forces nothing. So without him, they're a totally different team.
It sounds like, Sam, that was a long way of saying yes without saying yes. They live and die by Evan Mobley. That's what I heard.
I don't want to say they live and die by him because I think they're going to beat teams like, the Orlando Magics of the world or the Minnesota Timberwolves of the world without him. It's just, you're probably not going to go on the road and beat Dallas by 18 points without him. That's probably not going to happen because he's a guy who's going to neutralize. Obviously, Luka Doncic against the Cavs had a triple-double, but JB Bickerstaff said it best was, we did the job on the other guys. And a lot of that comes down to Mobley. And, if you're on the opposing team, you expend a lot of energy defending him. So, I mean, if you're going to win big games or beat playoff opponents on the road, you're going to need Mobley out there for the most part. But I think that they're good enough, and JB has them playing hard enough every night, regardless of who's out there, that you're going to be able to beat the teams that you should beat at home.
It is so interesting to see this long-term, hey, we believe in Bickerstaff, plan come together for this team right now. It was the struggle last year, and like, you're persevering and you're trying not to get impatient, but you really see like what everyone else saw in Bickerstaff, not just fans who are like, well, we can't win, we got to make a change. Like, no, it's because he understands how to get a team to play together, how to get a team to play team ball, understands like this defense and how to work with these tall guys. Reece, will you be bold enough to say that the Cavs live and die by Evan Mobley? Maybe you're not an assisting managing editor anywhere at this point. Maybe you.
I'm going to just go ahead and go on the record and say yes.
Okay.
And that's not just to say that he is that, and not necessarily by his play, but his energy is, you can just tell when he's on the court. I mean, he's attracting defenders in the paint, out on the arc, everywhere he is, he's someone that's going to play physical, and he's going to make defenders have to guard him. So not even necessarily we live or die by Mobley. I would say just having him out there, it's another threat. It's a threat that I don't think people knew was going to be here this soon. I mean, you look at the guy, he's tall and skinny. He's got a lot of room to grow. And, I didn't think he would be playing this good until at least a year or two. So to see him do that, I would say, yeah, we probably do live or die by him, because he's been that X factor that we can rely on in 50-50 situations.
Which isn't that what you want from a top 3 lottery pick though?
Oh yeah, no, it's nice to actually, lottery picks are scary because you can invest in, for let's say Zion, he still has yet to really touch the court. And that was a headline, who's going to get Zion? Who's going to get Zion? And, people don't really think about the Evan Mobleys or, the guys that don't get that attention, but are still really good lotto picks.
Sam, real quick, who'd you rather have, Zion Williamson or Evan Mobley?
I was just thinking that while we were talking about it, sadly.
I got you.
Is
it scary that I know what you're thinking?
Yeah, demented minds think alike, right? I would say
it. Come
this
on,
season I'd rather have Mobley. I would rather have Evan Mobley.
Yep.
Let's go.
But
it's not crazy.
He's just, to me, I enjoy Zion is fantastic at what he does. He's all power, but I don't think I'm saying anything new here when I say he's gonna, he's struggled with his weight. He's had a lot of injuries, and like Reece said, he can't stay on the court. Mobley, to me, is more fluid and more fits better in today's game. Now, I hope for Zion Williams' sake that he's able to get on the court and becomes the all-star everybody expects him to be. So,
and not only for today's game, but for this Cleveland Cavaliers team, I think Evan Mobley is the quintessential piece that lets all these other pieces fit into place. And there's really maybe only 2 or 3 other players in the league that could fill that role. And we have the youngest player to do that, the only player in the draft who could fit this need, who can have all these other pieces fall into place, who takes off this pressure that Kevin Love felt like he had to bear, who is able to help a player like Garland. And no one else could do that in the draft. And no one else has this undefined ceiling that Mobley has. And we're going to play a new segment. We're going to introduce a new segment after the break here. And I don't want to give too much away, but I think for the team of the Cavs, I would pick Mobley over Zion as well.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I think this goes back to what Reece was saying, was that you really would pick him right now. I mean, aren't you glad we were going into the draft talking about Suggs and Cunningham and Green, Jalen Green, and they all could be really nice players down the road. But I just think that the Cavs got lucky by not getting the first or second pick, because I don't know that they would have taken Mobley at 1 or 2. I don't think they would have. I think they would have, and understandably so. Everybody was so high on Cunningham and Green. And again, those guys could be fantastic someday. But
that's right now, really fascinating what if the Cavs would have gotten that first pick. I don't think they would have taken.
They would have gone with Cunningham.
You do?
You really?
Yeah, I think that was who they were. They were trying to trade up to get that number 1 pick at one point.
For Cade Cunningham, with all the investment they had in
this guy was supposedly, he's 6'8", he can handle the ball, and I think he is promising. The difference between him and Mobley too right now is the Cavs kind of are a year or 2 ahead of their rebuild, as opposed to the Pistons. The Pistons are just kind of like, we're going to have Cade Cunningham on the team in 5 years, and we don't know who else.
The Pistons are always in a rebuild, though, at some point.
Yeah. It's
the Pistons kind of played well last year, and we were pretty excited about their core, and we were unsure of our core. Remember, we were like, what are we going to do with Garland? Is he going to produce? A lot of people like him. What about Sexton? What's Jared Allen going to do? Is he going to fulfill? Like, there was a lot of unknowns, and only because of Mobley has it accelerated our build? Like no one was really super high on the
Yes.
Cavs
Good
until Mobley showed us that he is not playing like a rookie. And so I don't think we can underestimate like the role that Mobley's played in the acceleration of a rebuild. He has changed everyone's perspective, everyone's expectation of this team. And I'm going to say that if we don't make the playoffs, people are going to be bummed. Like why can't we make the playoffs or play-in game this year? Like he's set that expectation.
They should be able to make the play-in game. And I'll say this to add to your point, Chase. I think the the Cavs would be closer to the way they were last year if they didn't have Mobley. And I think the Pistons would probably be better than the Cavs right now had they taken Mobley. So the Cavs really got fortunate in that for the first quarter of the season, they have the guy who to me is clearly the rookie of the year.
And the season is young, Sam and Reece. The season is young.
There's a long way to go.
We're just now getting to the first quarter. So
we are in week 7. Let's look at this week's slate. Usually we hit this after the break, but after the break, this segment I feel like might take the rest of the show, and I'm just going to get too excited. And I just want to get through this week's slate coming up. We played on Monday night against the Mavericks in Dallas. And we won 114-96. The Cavs played tonight. If you're listening, this is probably on a Wednesday, the 1st of December. We play the Heat tonight in Miami at FTX Arena at 7:30. We play again on Friday, December 3rd at Capital One Arena against the Washington Wizards at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then we play Sunday, wrapping up this week's slate, December 5th at home, 3:30 at the Rock. We host the Jazz. Again, just more kind of litmus test for this young team. Like the Heat are no joke. The Wizards are playing extremely well, probably a little over exceeding a little bit of maybe what people thought they would be. And then the Jazz. Sam, what are your expectations for the rest of this week, man? We're on a 2-game win streak.
Yeah. You know, I honestly, you can't count these guys out anymore. Nope. They just play so hard. To me, they've had like 6 bad quarters all season, which, you know, in a season that's 21 games long now, that really says something. That's impressive for a team that's in this situation. Even when they were on that 5-game losing streak again, and all those guys were out, they were playing hard. They were competitive. There was a lot to like about those games, even though they lost them. So, you know, it's hard to predict. Obviously, at Miami, that's always a place that the Cavs have struggled historically, even during the LeBron era. And they're tough. I mean, the Heat are tough. So it'll be a nice test. The Wizards obviously playing very well after that Russell Westbrook trade and getting Kuzma and Harrell and Spencer Dinwiddie and Caldwell Pope. That team's reinvented itself, and all those guys are suddenly playing free and easy, and it's really paying off for them. So I like the Wizards. I think the Cavs, if they're going to steal one of those 2 road games, are going to beat the Wizards.
Yeah, the Wizards beat the Cavs at home last week, right? On the Kuzma 3 in the corner. I'm just curious if a couple of those players aren't looking at this game like, hey, like if we're going to get in the playoffs, like we got to beat teams like this, and really looking to kind of show out that game. I agree, Sam. I think the Cavs.
Chase, I looked at it this way: Dallas, Miami, at Miami, at Washington. All the Cavs need to do is win one of those. They already did it.
Well,
they beat Dallas, so they can lose the next 2, no big deal. They could even lose to Utah, not a huge deal, because they're still going to be in the playoff race, even if they were to lose 3 in a row. The problem is after that they got to go to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I don't mean to get too far ahead of myself, but I tend to do that in life.
Yeah, I feel like, Reece, I want to get your opinion in a moment. I feel like the Jazz are an interesting team to kind of side by side with the Cavs. You know, they got length and Gobert. I think the Cavs have more length across the board, but I just see some similarities in, we don't have a Donovan Mitchell type player, but I just kind of see maybe a team where oh, are we the Jazz of the East, or are they the Cavs of the West? Or I know, and they've made some pretty deep runs. Sam, why can't we win 2? Why can't we win 3? Why can't we? And, I haven't, Sam, recorded a pod in a month. So why can't we win all the games? Like,
yeah. And I've missed your insanity, but
right,
they can. The bottom line is they could win all 4 of those, including Monday against Dallas. They have that ability. They've shown that ability. They play hard enough. They play well enough. They have the talent. They certainly could go in and win some of these games. They could beat a Miami. They could beat a Washington. Last year at this time, Chase, I'd be saying, no way. Forget it. They're not winning any of them.
Right.
This year, I think that they have the capability. I really do think they could win all 3. The key for them is to just stay within themselves, keep doing what they're doing, keep playing hard, and keep really having fun and believing in themselves. And yeah, with the way they've been playing this year, I wouldn't rule them out against anyone.
Reece, I want to ask you this question with that slate. If there's a game in there that Mobley could have a signature game, he had a pretty coming out party at MSG against the Knicks. If there's a game in there you see possibly Mobley could do that, which one of these next 3 games possibly could it happen?
Man, I'm gonna have to say the Wizards, just because Bam with the obviously with the Heat are a really physical team. They're gonna play tough. So it does give me a little bit of concern with that. It's the Heat. They're like Sam said, it's hard for us to win in Miami. We rarely win in Miami, and I don't know if that's just the curse of what happened or what, but Miami worries me. But if there's a game that I want Evan Mobley to show out, it's against the Wizards. And I think all the Cavs players might want to show out for that after, Kyle Kuzma's comments. I feel like they might have that one circled on their agenda maybe to try and show out for. So I'm thinking that the Wizards game is going to be the Cavs' big game this week.
Sam, what would you say? It would possibly, might be a breakout Mobley signature game?
Yeah, that would probably be it. And again, the Miami plays a very different style than most NBA teams. The Cavs won't have seen this style yet, which is a very physical, rough and tumble, push you around, dare the refs to call the foul type of style, which, historically can impact the rookie who's like, what's going on? But yeah, I mean, to me, the guy's already had a couple of breakout games,
Mm-hmm.
I just think, with Washington, the situation being what it is, their forwards are a little bit smaller. As long as he doesn't, not that it would be a big deal, but Montrezl Harrell would be the guy to give him problems there in Washington. But he's matched up against Jared Allen or Kevin Love or somebody. So I think Washington is a place where, a guy like Mobley, it's kind of laid back there. Their crowds, I've been to Wizards home games, they're real laid back, and the fans aren't really riding you that much. They're just happy to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good spot. So either way, whether he has this huge statistical performance or not, really, you can see someday this kid's gonna, he's gonna average a double-double and be a huge threat to get a double-double every night. But right now, he's just making a difference any way, shape, or form.
Well, I'm circling December 3rd on my calendar because both of you said it. So if it doesn't happen, I'm blaming you all. I have some bad news. That's the last time the Cavs won in Miami. Sam, do you have a guess? I have it in front of me.
You were 7 years old.
No.
Are you? No, wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was long ago, but it wasn't.
I would say 2015.
Longer.
Really? 2011? No, it would have had to been like 2009.
2010, January 25th, 2010, Miami Heat versus Cleveland. The Cavs won 92-91.
That was the game. That was the game that Wade dunked on Varejão's head and stared him down, and it almost led to a little scuffle. But LeBron had a huge game. That was obviously before LeBron left the first time for Miami, and I remember he had a huge night that night.
Yeah. So 11 years haven't won a game there. Why not start tonight? That's what I'm saying. Why not? Wait, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to play a game. And it's a brand new segment here called Who's Best. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Jeremy Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need each week to get you ready for kickoff and beyond.
Don't miss our breakdowns of each week's matchups, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we all know, Holly, dogs got to eat.
That's right, Jeremy. Hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of The Orange is Oranger Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
The R&R podcast going to be rocking and rolling with you because football season is underway. College, Ohio State, the Power Fives, the MAC, the Browns. Michael Regai, are you ready to rock and roll with some football?
Kenny, I've been ready. This is our time of year. This is what R&R is all about. We're going to be with you every week. Kenny just said it. Browns, NFL, Ohio State centric. So you got to stay with us all fall and winter long here on R&R.
That's right. The Regai and Rhoda podcast coming to you here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Subscribe now and don't miss a show.
Hey everybody, I'm Gary. And I'm Jason. Opening cards as a kid, no matter what was in the pack, you always had that stick of chewing gum. Well, it turns out Gary and I opened up a box of 86 Tops last year, and let me tell you, the chewing gum does not age well.
Join us on the Ball Card Show,
the sports podcast for the sports collector.
Hey, it's Tito, host of the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Get all the news and analysis you need to dominate your fantasy league. I've been doing this as long as anybody in the business. I can help give you the edge in your leagues. It's the Premier Fantasy Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Listen, it is beyond time for you to join a book club. I know you've been thinking about it, and everyone's doing it. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us, and then listen in.
Hey everyone, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. Backed by popular demand, I'm excited to let you know that new episodes of the Hyman Podcast will drop every other Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're going to continue the conversations we started last season and keep having those hard conversations. There is so much in store for you this season, and I'm excited to share it with you. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single moment. The Hyman Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Don Mike Mendoza, the host of the Producing While Asian podcast. Join us to listen in on conversations with everyone who identify from producers to non-producers who all are part of the AAPI community. There's all that and more on the Producing While Asian podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network.
And we are back with Cavs on the break. We got Sam Amico, Reece Wetzel. We're going to play this game here called Who's the Best? And I'm just super excited. Look, Sam, you know that every time we talk Cavs, I'm really big on you got to have the best player on the court. I say that all the time, that it's a lot of times in basketball, it comes down to who's the best player. You got 10 guys out there. Who's the best player on the court that gives you the best chance to win? And for the past couple of years, the Cavs haven't had a lot of best players. But Sam, Reece, right now we have a player who gives us hope, who very well could be or could not be. We'll find out. The best player on the court. So introducing a segment I call Who's the Best. I'm just going to go through teams in the East, and you're just going to tell me if Evan Mobley is better than players on their teams.
All right. Knock yourself out.
Simple as that. Oh,
you.
I will, Sam. Don't you worry. The first team we got, and it's going to start pretty easy because some of these, teams, pretty common. So we have the first team here, and this is going to go in standing order. So the Brooklyn Nets, team led by Kevin Durant, James Harden. You got names like LaMarcus Aldridge. Blake Griffin gets some minutes. Joe Harris, whatever Kyrie brings to the table. Who's the best? And for this sake, we're saying that Evan Mobley is the name as the Cavs are going to put out there. I feel like people can make an argument for Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen some nights, but no player on the Cavs has the ceiling that Evan Mobley has. I don't think Garland has that ceiling. We've seen what Garland and Allen can bring to the team. And we haven't seen fully what, and that's not to talk bad about Allen or Garland, anyone else on the team, or my boy Okoro at all, but it's just Mobley's different. Mobley has this opportunity to be a best player on the court. And so let's figure out what teams he has the chance to do that against. The Nets, who's the best?
Are you asking me or Reece?
I'm asking you, Sam, first.
Oh, the Nets. I mean, Kevin Durant's probably the best player in the league.
Yeah. Pretty easy. Reece, I'm not even going to get your opinion because I just feel like if there is another opinion, I don't want
that's a no question.
Don't want to entertain it here. All right, Reece, we'll go to you for the Bulls. We got names like Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, DeMar DeRozan.
You don't have to mention Alex Caruso.
Oh.
He's not a threat. I mean, he's not a threat as the best player on the team.
Wow. I'm going to cut that audio out and just send it to him.
No, don't do that.
No, I wouldn't do that. No, I like Caruso. I think he's a great.
No, I'm just saying he's probably not going to be the best player. He's on the court.
Okay. So
nor is Lonzo.
I would have to easily say LaVine. I mean, you want to talk about ceilings that are, I mean, that dude his ceilings are unlimited too. He can give you 10 or he can give you 60. And most nights he's going to give you those high numbers. I could see maybe DeMar DeRozan, but I mean, he doesn't have it like Zach LaVine does.
Yeah, I would say LaVine's the best player out there, and DeRozan's having a fantastic season.
Yes.
He's been reborn since he got out of San Antonio. But yeah, I think LaVine's the best player there. I don't think Chase likes that answer, but
I mean, I have to temper my expectations because I'm not doing this on like potential, more like right now, which kind of limits who's the best.
Sure.
But I love as a team what the Bulls have. And I think as a team, they are incredibly deep and are playing really, really well. But I mean, they got to maybe have one player in the top 15. I don't know. Anyway, fine. Mobley is not the best.
They'll make a run. I guarantee they're going to make a run. It come the
April. Very well coached. Billy Donovan's a good coach. Yeah.
All right. Third, we got the Miami Heat. Who's the best? We got Depot, Kyle Lowry, Bam, Tyler Hero, who thinks he's the best. We got Jimmy Buckets. Haslam's still chilling in the league. Who's the best?
I'm gonna put together a team of the all guys you shouldn't have named.
Do it.
So far we've got Udonis Haslam at Alex Caruso at point guard. I'm gonna go with Jimmy Butler still.
Wait, you're saying I should have named Tyler Hero? That's a name I should have put up there. You agree that he's up there?
Oh yeah, sure he is. He's having a great year when he's healthy.
He's bouncing back from last year too.
Yeah. Well, it's a sophomore slump kind of thing, but yeah, he's having a real nice season. I would say Jimmy Butler is the best player on the court in those games.
I would have to agree with that.
No argument there. I've very easily, co-sign on that than the Bulls. I know the Bulls. I just, again, Zach LaVine, incredible athlete, but no arguments on the Heat. Buckets is pretty great. All right, so far we are 0 for 3 on who's the best.
And Jimmy Butler also is the drive time host occasionally on the country music channel on the Sirius XM radio that we sometimes. Yeah, huge country music fan. Yep. He rattles off stats like we do about the NBA about country music.
He is an enigma. Yeah. Did you hear that in the bubble he brought like his own like coffee thing?
Oh,
he
yeah.
was selling coffee.
Yeah, it was expensive too. Did you hear how expensive it was?
I heard it was expensive. I don't know the number, but I heard it was.
It was overpriced. That's for sure. I don't know the exact number either, but hey,
maybe it was from Starbucks if it was overpriced.
Look, all I'm saying is there's not a headliner story that I read about Jimmy Butler that doesn't that I won't believe, whether it's with someone he gets with or like a side venture or whatever. Just like he's entered this zone where it's like, oh, Jimmy Butler does this. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And it's just like, no,
he's an interesting guy. He really is. And I say that in a good way.
Incredible basketball player. All right. So far,
if we're going to go through every team in the East, this segment's going to take like 6 hours.
It's not going to we got a couple more. We're not going to go through every team.
I'm with you.
He's obviously. Hey, I said this is all the last segment, and I haven't recorded a pod in a while, so we're just going to enjoy this. All right, here we go. The Wizards. All right, Bradley Beal, Montrezl Harrell. Now you got me second guessing names. Spencer Dinwiddie.
Just go for it. We can stick him on the team.
He wants to say Kyle Kuzma.
I know the name I was debating was Roy Hachimura, only because he was in my fantasy team last year and he did really well. So who's the best? Who you got there?
Go ahead, Reece.
Bradley Beal, no question. That dude he's an amazing shooter, and he's one of my favorite players to watch. His game is awesome. So I'm going to say Bradley Beal.
I would have to agree there. One of my favorite players to watch as well. And a guy who, oddly enough, is really seeming like he's committed to the Wizards.
Yep.
Which is kind of cool. But yeah, I would say he's the best player on the court in that game. But the thing about, as Reece kind of alluded, the thing about guys like LaVine, and not so much Beal, he's a little more consistent, but there are going to be games where they're not the best. Maybe a game here or there a month where they have one of those nights where they're 3 of 15 shooting or something, where they just have one of those off nights. It's not like somebody like Durant who is going to bring it every night. He's going to get great numbers. And so there are times where the Cavs or say Mobley would be a better player than one of those two, because those guys more often than super duper stars will have a couple off nights here.
All right. Make me feel better. Sam, of the three, rank them in this order. And the order of like best to worst: LaVine, Butler, and Beal.
LaVine, Butler, and Beal. I would go, gosh, that's tough between Butler and Beal. I think LaVine's definitely third.
Okay, Reece.
I'm gonna say Beal, probably only just because he's just a little more explosive in terms of offense, but Butler does so many things. I'm going to say Beal, even though you could certainly I would not disagree if you went with Butler.
Reece, is Levine third? That's just all I'm getting. I'm trying to make
Levine's third. Levine's third. But I would
Okay.
say Butler. For me, Butler's first. Just
Okay,
because
Probably because
far-
his defense.
His defense and he's worked for everything he has. He has built his game entirely from ground up. Like,
yeah, he really has.
Nobody thought Jimmy Butler would be as good as he is today.
All right, so far Levine is the worst of the best.
Yes.
I just want to see how far Levine drops, and then at some point you're going to agree that maybe that's a little more difficult decision than you guys gave it.
You just don't. You are not going to accept that. We're not going to bed.
Just listen as we go, because now we're at the Bucks. We're at the Bucks, and we have, if it's not Durant, it's Giannis, right?
Yeah.
And so
right.
I'm not even going to mention Brooke Lopez or Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton. It's Giannis, and that's it. So moving on. Now we're to the Hornets. All right.
Ooh.
And now we're getting into Levine could be the best person, but also we're getting into could Mobley have it? Because now we have Miles Bridges, LaMelo Ball. So who else we got here? Oubre Jr., Gordon Hayward,
Terry Rozier, Shaker Heights,
Scary Terry,
Pride of Shaker Heights.
I mean, who's the best
of the Hornets players that you name? Well,
Mobley.
Oh,
because that's the whole purpose of would you take
Mobley over any of those guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I mean, LaMelo Ball's fantastic most nights. I personally would rather have Mobley than any of those guys moving forward.
Let's go. So this is where it starts to flip. Would you rather have Levine or anyone on the Hornets, Sam? Is this Levine Mobley territory?
I would probably rather have Levine than anyone on the Hornets, even though I think LaMelo's fantastic, and I think Hayward's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's somebody else I might be missing in there.
Mason Plumlee. You're like, Mason Plumlee just produces every time.
he can back up Udonis Haslem on that other team.
Yeah. So I think it's down to, is it LaMelo or Mobley, Reece? Who do you got?
Man, not even for basketball reasons, I'm taking Evan Mobley. But LeVar Ball immediately makes me not want to have a Ball brother on the team.
So at this point of the East, we're seeing that Mobley is the best player. Would you rather have Zach LaVine? Like, would Zach LaVine be the best player, Bulls Hornets?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so somewhere after the top five, after Giannis, it's LaVine and then Mobley. That's kind of where we're at right now. All right, we're moving on. You're seeing where I'm getting at. The Knicks. All right, there's gonna be a lot of names here. Sam, we're gonna enjoy this. Obi Toppin, Derrick Rose, Kemba Walker, RJ Barrett, Kevin Knox, Julius Randle, or Evan Mobley in the Cavs. Who's the best?
Probably Randle at this point, but
Evan Fournier. Sorry,
Mobley give him a run, So
okay,
and I would probably choose Julius Randle over Zach LaVine, since I know that question's coming next.
All right, interesting. Reece, who's the best?
I'm gonna say
Cavs
Julius
Knicks.
Randle. Julius Randle, just because his game's a lot more developed right now. And you can really see that, especially this year. Just watching them play against the Nets, his fadeaway jumpers mid-range is really deadly, actually, which is something I didn't think he would have. So I would say right now, Julius Randle. But
yeah, I have no qualms with that. I think that's a good answer. Good answer. Survey says good answer, Reece, that his game is more developed. And at this point, it would be Julius Randle. No qualms on that. But I think it speaks to Julius Randle and how hard he's working. All right.
Oh yeah, he's changed his whole game since he was in LA. It's crazy.
Now, some of those teams are overreaching because now we're getting into teams like the 76ers, the Hawks, the Celtics, where Mobley at this point probably isn't the best player because you have Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, right, who's having an incredible year. Maybe even Seth Curry is in that conversation, but it's going to be Joel Embiid. He's a top 5, top 10 player in the league whenever he's healthy. And right now, if the Cavs play the Sixers, Embiid's the best player on the court.
When he's healthy, which is about 50% of the time. But yes, he is.
And which takes us to the Hawks, which is has Reece's best friend on the Reece and Trey have a history, Sam.
Well, Reece is in Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
So obviously that's where Trae Young went to school. How's the connection?
Story time. Let's go. Here we go. Trae Young and Reece Wetzel have beef. Trae Young, Reece is calling you out right here on the Cavs.
I've been calling him out. I've tried calling him out. He just, he doesn't. I get it. I was the big rival in high school. I didn't play, but I gave him a good run for his money with trash talk in one game. His senior year, last home game against Trae Young. Everyone knows he's going D1. Everyone, I'm gonna bring all I can bring to the table, which is a loud voice and a lot of trash talk. So I did that. And I paid the price. I paid the price, and he hit a game winner on us, and I got a piss blown at me. And
wow.
So Trey, if you still go to that Canes in Norman, I'm waiting.
Wow. So here's the deal: if you go to YouTube and type in Trae Young Norman North buzzer beater, the very first video comes up. Reece, I don't mean to put you on blast like this, but
no, it's fine.
I was shocked when Reece. This is so cool.
It's going to be on Hoops Wire in an hour.
It's balls, 862,000 views. Trae Young drops 42 points, takes a bow, and blows a kiss to the visiting student section, which is Reece Wetzel. It's right there on YouTube. Check it out.
Wow.
But that's what Trae Young does. He takes this trash talk, and then there are countless videos of him just hitting buzzer after buzzer and just relishing in the villainy of Trae Young. And so here we have who's the best with this Hawks team. It's not Evan Mobley right now.
No, Trae Young, yeah, obviously. And the guys we're listing above Evan Mobley are not. It's no shame after 22 games in your NBA career to be in the conversation. I think that's what's the most impressive thing about Mobley right now is we're kind of doing this thing centered on him.
Yeah,
and says a lot about how far he's come in a very limited amount of time.
3 more teams. Celtics, for as much adversity as they're going through, I still think Tatum and probably even Jaylen Brown at this point are better players than Evan Mobley. I think he's, maybe closer to being better than Jaylen Brown, but I would have no qualms saying that when the Celtics play the Cavs, Evan Mobley will not be the best player.
No, I would agree with you there. The only thing sounds like I disagree with you is that I actually like Jaylen Brown better than Jason Tatum.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm not going to argue that. What about Zach LaVine?
Do I like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown better than Zach LaVine?
Gosh, you gave me so much crap for thinking that Mobley is.
This is all he wants. Nobody gave me crap. We were just saying that
you're like Chase doesn't like that answer. I think it's worth a conversation. You were really quick to. All right, so
push off. Yeah, this is why you didn't get invited to Whitey's.
I am a little salty. It's okay. It's all right. I'm just really hungry also right now.
Yeah, and I keep bringing up food.
Yeah, the Raptors. This will be interesting. Reece, I'm going to throw this one to you. Here's who the Raptors have. OG Anunoby. They have Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, and Scotty Barnes, who has given Evan Mobley a run for his money in Rookie of the Year. It's having an incredible year. Reece, who's the best?
I'm going to go Evan Mobley here. I don't think that there's besides Siakam, I think he's a great player, and I'm not going to deny that. but you take a spin move away, he's just a tall guy with the basketball. So I don't think I think Evan Mobley could be the highest scorer and the best player on a court against the Raptors. I'm not sold on the Raptors.
Reece, what's your beef with Pascal Siakam right there? I mean, I feel like those are fighting words.
I don't have any beef with them. I just there was a lot of attention on him when they were like making their big runs with Kawhi and everything.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
To me, he just spin moves.
Sam, thoughts on Evan Mobley being the best in the Cavs Raptors game?
Yeah, I would take Mobley.
It's amazing.
And I'm with Reece because Siakam is obviously a great athlete, but he's very, and for as good as he is, this isn't a shot at him, but he's just not that great beyond one or two moves. He's more of a guy who's, you want him as like your third option, fill in the lane kind of guy. And I think we've seen what happens with the Raptors when he's kind of the main guy, he's kind of their number one option. They're just an okay team. So
it's fascinating.
Yeah. And I think he's a nice player. Obviously you'd love to have him, but I would just take Mobley in that situation. And also Raptors fans, and this shows that they're good fans, they really annoy me.
Yeah.
They're always coming to Cleveland whenever we play whenever the Cavs would play the Raptors in the playoffs. The Raptors had their own, their fans had their own little blocked off area, and they would pack it in and just be loud. And it's like, you're facing LeBron. You're not going to.
They did it just to get swept every year.
Yeah, you come down here to run your mouths and lose.
Man,
kind of like Reece Wetzel against Trae Young.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
All right. Wow. A lot of fire out towards the Raptors.
That's a sign of a great fan base. Don't get me wrong. If you can annoy the opposing fan base, then you're doing your job.
All right. Final team here. This will be interesting because, Sam, for a while, we applauded the Pacers for being the staple of stability, of being a team that was always in the mix, incredibly well coached, really, really, really deep. And that's kind of turned the past season and a half. We got TJ Warren, Malcolm Brogdon, Justin Holiday. I'm not saying TJ McConnell, Sam, don't tempt me. Sabonis, Karis LeVert, man, poor guy. Miles Turner. Who's the best? Cavs versus Pacers.
I'm gonna go. Gosh, I was gonna just shout out Sabonis, but
that's who I was thinking too.
Yeah, I mean, he's generally a double-double, and it seems like when he plays well, when he has a big game, they win. And he's always, at worst, he's solid. He's an all-star, obviously. That would be the guy that I would take. And again, that's no shot at Evan Mobley, but
yeah,
Sabonis is a fantastic player, really, for the most part.
So just to recap, for those keeping track at home, the Nets, they have the best player against the Cavs. The Bulls, the 2 seed, they have the best player against the Cavs, according to Reece and Sam. The Heat, they have the best player against the Cavs. The Wizards have the best player against the Cavs. The Bucks have the best player against the Cavs. The Hornets, the Cavs have the best player against the Hornets. The Knicks temporarily have the best player against the Cavs. The 76ers have the best player against the Cavs. The Hawks have the best player against the Cavs. That's 10 teams. The Cavs have the best player now against one of them, possibly over the Knicks by the end of the year. Then we got Celtics, the 11th seed. They have the best player. The Raptors, the Cavs have the best player. The Pacers, we said Sabonis. And then it's just the Pistons and the Magic. So an uphill climb, but that's progress, Sam, because the past couple of years, we've never had the best player at all. And now there's actually conversations and hope.
Well, and also, as we know, the way and the style that they are playing, it overcomes a lot. We saw the Utah Jazz last year finish with the best record in the Western Conference in the regular season. we saw the Phoenix Suns do what they did. Now, granted, they had Booker and the Jazz had Mitchell, but still, when you compare those guys to a lot of other players in the Western Conference last season, they may not have had the best player on the floor more often than not. And it's just a style that they play had led to a wonderful regular season, and for the Suns, a run to the finals. So I think that the Cavs have really built off that, are built, I guess I should say, in that kind of blueprint where it's a team type thing that potentially with guys like Allen and Mobley and Garland, those three in particular, you're going to have the potential to have the best player on the floor. And when you don't, you're still playing hard and smart as a team and doing all the things you need to do defensively to keep yourselves in games. That, to me, is the reason why the Cavs are going to win some of these games this year where they don't have the best individual on the floor.
Yep. Look, Mobley gives us hope. Mobley gives us an undefined ceiling the Cavs are still exploring. Mobley gives us a chance to be in the conversation, a chance to be invited to the playoffs. Mobley gives what Cavs fans haven't had, Sam, in a long time, and that's hope. And that is a competitive team. And I know all three of us are grateful for that. We're grateful that Kobe has made some incredible moves this offseason, right? And
Markkanen was a great move. Rubio was a very good move too. It was paid off very well.
Yep. So all good things ahead, barring no more major injuries. Thoughts, T's and P's to Colin Sexton. You always hate to see that, which is a whole nother probably podcast to talk about what that means moving forward. But Reece, thanks for joining us, man. Excellent job on your first show, my bro.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It was fun time. Love talking Cavs. So
yeah, thanks for coming on, Reece. This is, I think, you pretty much, given the Trae Young story, have become our most famous guest.
Yes.
Without question.
Hey, I'll take it.
Well, that does it for this episode of Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Thank you all so much for downloading and listening. Shouts to the Press Play Podcast Network for making this possible. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. We always follow back. Follow Sam on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Catch all of his work and writings at hoopswire.com and outkick.com for breaking news, insider info, and more. Do not miss out. Sam, any final thoughts?
That's it. Just as I always say, guys, the next best thing to winning the championship is a regular season full of fun. And I think that the Cavs very well have potential to pull that off.
All right, let's do it. Mike Breen, take us out.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.